It's the very same wood as the boards that the brands are using. Fear of that is that skate industry, skate brands would start to fall apart and fall down. So I've been riding this polar board for 51 days. We're gonna back up first to when I set this board up, and then we're gonna dive into this new custom board that I actually got. It's all the same specs as this polar board. After we talk about blanks versus brand boards, you can actually get boards for a lot cheaper than brand boards. However, there's a good and bad thing about that. So let's jump into that conversation, and then I'll catch you up, kind of tell you about why I love this board so much, give you a quick little review, the update after 51 days, and we'll set up this new custom board with wheel wells by Handmade Skateboard. Shout out to them for sending me this deck. Really, there's only like 4 different board factories. All the skate brands use the same factory, so you're getting the same board. So why not get blanks is the other question. When you first are starting to get a skateboard, normally you just get whatever you get. Not always. Sometimes people go and choose their first board. In my case, it was my dad. Eventually, I really just wanted the cool board. The cool board was like the boards that had like really cool graphics. Essentially, it was more about the brand and the graphics. Size matters a little bit, but it doesn't play that much of a factor. Then, you know, there's so many other factors that eventually go on as you start to do it more. First things first, I got some clear mob grip, and then I got some just good old Jessup. This is a polar board, 8875, and a shorter wheelbase. A lot of people think that a longer wheelbase is better for transition skating. I like a shorter wheelbase, a little more scrolly. So when you're skating a really big transition, like a mega ramp or a vert ramp, then I get why you want that longer wheelbase for like the stability. Now, one thing that's interesting is the cost of skateboards. I'm just now starting to see certain brands change their prices. Eventually, after I got like a couple of the cool boards, I got to the point where like I wanted more boards, but my parents obviously couldn't afford like keep getting like the cool graphic boards. So then you get blank boards or shot board. There's still shot boards now. I personally do like brands as well. The big difference is mainly you get more options. And what I mean by that is like when you were getting a blank board from the skate shop, a lot of times they just have like the standard sizes, you know, the 8 or the 775 all the way up to maybe like an 8.5 sometimes. They have sometimes a lot of big boards. Really depends on the shop you're going to too. Some shops are tailored more to like transition skating, so they have like bigger boards, naturally, bigger brands. Obviously the shop boards are cheaper than graphic boards because they can sell it at their rate. And they're getting it a lot of times from the same place, the very same factory, it's the very same wood as the boards that the brands are using. Someone might say, hey, like why not just go get blank board? The problem with it is you get the basic sizes, like I say, in the width, but you don't get down into the grit and the details, like wheelbase and stuff like that. Like it's pretty hard to go to a shop and be like, hey, I want an 8875 with like a 14.5 wheelbase. But the point that I'm getting at is like brands, what I think they provide to skaters beyond like cool graphics or things like that, they're supporting your favorite pro skater, you know, typically has to do with buying their products or buying like products from the brand so that they can continue having pro skaters. If everyone's just buying blank boards, I think a lot of times the fear of that is that skate industry, skate brands would start to fall apart and fall down. And obviously when you buy a brand, you're supporting a brand deck from a skate shop. You're supporting both. You're supporting the skate shop and the brand and the skater. If you're getting like a pro board, for example, it's not like people are making a killing or a crazy living from board royalties without that little bit of consumer being like invested to the brands and the skaters. A lot what would happen is you wouldn't see your favorite skater skating as much. So it's a little about like buying with the tent. Normally with shops, they can only do like one graphic at a time. It's not cheap to do like tons of different graphics for shops. Like some do like maybe 1 or 2 graphics. Then when you're writing blanks, you're supporting the wood factory, which is good, and that supports the industry. Yeah, I'm just curious about your guys' thought on that whole idea, whether or not you're supporting skating if you're buying blanks. Also seen a lot of the PAL guys, the ride boards that have like this experiment graphic on the bottom. I think that's kind of smart. Then you know, like it's not just like some random board. You're like, oh, that's a PAL board. That's probably got some new shape coming soon. Let's get these trucks on here. Still riding my Ace AF1 hollows. I am gonna set up some new wheels. Now I kind of want the complete package. I don't want just the cheapest thing. I'd rather spend a little more money because I can. Luckily to do that on something that I really like. I'm greedy, you know. I want wheel wells on the board. I want the board to be a certain size. I want there to be a certain wheelbase. I want it to be a certain length. Then I also want there to be a really good graphic on it. So those are a lot of like boxes to check when picking a board. And it made it difficult for myself. I have a really, really hard time finding boards that I like. If I do find a board I really like and I'm hyped on it, I have to like try to keep getting it, but I don't want to bulk up on it, meaning I don't want like multiples of the same board over and over because I'll get bored of the graphic. I'm fine with the same shape and the same size, but I think if the graphic is always the same, I would get kind of bored of it. I know like what's gonna work best for me, and not only do I know what's gonna work best for me, I understand better like how. Shout out to Spotify for sending me wheels. I really like them. just a quick little recap is I think they locked in really good. I am going to put the conicals folds back on. I just felt like the side cuts didn't last as long. They keep saying side cuts, lock-ins, side cuts. Did feel like they wore out maybe a little faster because of the shape. So there's advantages and disadvantages to any kind of technology, I think, when it comes to skateboarding. Like, I love wheel wells. Does it make the board a little bit weaker? Sure. You gotta make your sacrifices where you feel like you get enough benefit, essentially, is what I'm getting at. My history of getting boards, very beginning was kind of get what you can. Then it was like, oh, I just need the cool graphic, the cool brand. And then eventually it was like, I'll just take a blank, give me the right size, because I'm going through a lot of boards. Now I'm at this place where I just like getting certain brands because I really like specific shapes, specific art, specific, things going on, like wheel wells. So yeah, that's kind of my anomaly. I can't always find a board though with all those requirements that I have, all those boxes I need to check off now. I've been making some boards. We'll see what happens with that. You can also get custom boards nowadays. Like, there's quite a lot of board companies out there that just make their boards by hand. We'll get this other wheels on here and maybe go hit some curbs, hit the ramp a little. I think my rail paint is nice and dry too. Ended up looking pretty nice, like the gray tone that I had, the paint with the gray board. I'm not mad about it. All right, let's go roll around, see how it feels. Very edge of my rail got clipped out, and these are the Santa Cruz Slime Line. I think they're like HSR rails, that's what they're called, and I love them because they stay on really good. I like the shape. I think they're the best rails on the market right now. However, they are hollow on the inside, so I don't know if that chipping has to do with like it being hollow, but kind of crazy. As you can see, they're really worn down. So the next deck, I'm not gonna have any rails. I tried to buy some today. None of the skate shops I went to had rails, so I'm gonna set up this new Manic Skateboards deck. This is an 8752. It's actually pretty much exactly the same as this polar board. I mean, the shape is a little bit different. I actually think it has a little bit of a more mellow tail than the polar board. And besides that, it's pretty much the exact same thing. It has wheel wells. I mean, when I'm looking at it straight up and down, it looks identical. The main difference in between this deck and the polar deck is obviously it's handmade. We'll get into the integrity and all that, but it's a 14.75 wheelbase. Had a lot shorter wheelbase on this one. It's actually a 14.375. So I like the shorter wheelbase. It's a little more squirrely. It's not as smooth. So when you're riding bigger transition, like big bowls, anything like that, a longer wheelbase is gonna be more sturdy. Your turn's gonna be a little more slow, but that could be a good thing because you're riding things that are really big, you're going really fast, so that sort of speeds the turning up. That's kind of the point. So I actually don't love a super long wheelbase, but that's gonna be the sample of trying this out. My perfect deck right here, like I said, I like the shorter wheelbase because I just think it's snappier. It's really carvy. Sometimes for some people, it actually might not be it might be too much turn. Like, I like that really, really sharp turn. And the other thing is I have a really loose truck. So it's like a combination of everything. And having the wheel wells is the big, big difference. And that is something I'll kind of dive into. My homie who made this board actually told me this might be the last time he ever does wheel wells. So if you're looking to get a custom board for Manic and you're looking to get wheel wells, it might be up for debate. I don't know if he's gonna wanna do them, but as you can see, these are actually a lot different than the polar ones. And the main difference there is because they're done by hand. So what he actually did is took a truck with a drill and like pressed it down to where the wheels would actually go on the board. So as you can see, the wheels kind of go a different place from the bottom trucks to the top trucks. Like, obviously the way you turn is gonna be different. So that's actually done in here. You can see how they're a lot more different, where the polar board is like, more of a mass-produced board. So you see that it's more done by a machine. It's pretty perfect on both sides, but they're not shaped. That's the point that I want to get at. We gotta wait for the street sweeper to go by. The crazy part is I think he's like 4 blocks away and you could still hear it, I'm sure. I've heard it in the past. Also, this is silk screened. I'm pretty sure this is silk screened, so no heat transfer. Obviously this board is gonna have probably more life in it, maybe not. This is made from Generator wood, and it is really good wood. I've had plenty of boards from Generator. This is obviously handmade, it's different. And yeah, the screen print process is gonna basically have less pressure on the board. So when you go through a heat transfer, you have to put it these little rolly things, and people say that it kind of messes with the integrity of the board. So this will have more strength according to just like general construction process of making a board. So yeah, overall the wheel wells, why I love them so much to get into that is because, as you can see, I still get some burn in my wheel well marks, but I get away with so much more tricks with the wheel wells and having loose trucks. Now the disadvantage of having loose trucks is that you get wheel bite and you fall, you don't land your tricks as precisely. With the wheel wells, it gives you a little more give. That's really what it is, but that little more give is a big difference. Once you start skating them, and you skate a lot of bowls or transition like I do, it's almost hard to go back. That's kind of where I'm at now. It's almost hard to ever imagine not skating wheel wells. Now, I only have one tiny piece of clear mom grip, so I actually think I'm just gonna go solid across the whole thing. I might do like one little line down here. Maybe a vert line, should I go sideways like a vert line? Nah, I think I'm just gonna go straight across. Now, when I do blank grip tape like that, I don't know which one's front and back, so I may just leave a little tiny space at the very top, like that, just so I know. But yeah, I'm excited to set this board up. Something new. I think the 875 is the perfect width for me right now. And for some people, that might be too wide, and I totally understand that. I do have multiple boards. Like I had a street setup for a while, and I had a slappy board, actually like a curb board for a while. But the thing is about that is you leave your boards in your car or anything like that, the decks actually start really losing their pop. I did that recently. I left a deck in my car, my street deck, and after a while I just realized how much the pop was gone. I tried to change the wheels. I thought it was all these different things because the deck was pretty new, but just leaving it in the car really did melt it. And yeah, it does play a factor, so don't leave your boards in your car. The point being that you can have multiple setups, and I think that's good, but ultimately, me personally, I want to have like one board that is versatile. Meaning I could kind of skate it on everything. Man, I'm really messing this grip tape up at the back here. That's so bad. Maybe I can drag another piece. I guess I don't ever put my foot over there. But yeah, the 875 for me is the perfect. I learned how to do tray flips on the 875. Working on relearning how to do kick flips on the 875. It would be nice sometimes to have the skinnier board, but it does make things a lot more complicated, and me personally, I just like grabbing my board and going out and skating. If it's a weekend session, sometimes I'll bring like multiple boards. If we know we're gonna go to hit a curb spot, sometimes you just don't know where you're gonna skate, you just end up on the session too though. So yeah, I couldn't find any more rails. I'm not gonna ride rails with this deck. This is gonna be the first deck in a while that I don't ride rails with. I actually really wanna see what the advantages and disadvantages. There's a lot of people that like hate the idea of riding deck rails, and you know, I kind of forget because I've been riding deck rails for so long. I almost forget what it feels like to not have deck rails. All right, so when it comes to the deck rails, I don't know, I haven't found the perfect ones. I think these Santa Cruz rails are the best. Now I have actually figured out how to keep my rails on there pretty good with my process. Now I do a tiny bit of glue. It's a combination of just like different things. That's no longer my problem. I had that problem for a while. I just like couldn't keep my rails on my deck, so it kept sliding off. As you can see, the fact that this got chipped off, it shows how good the rails really were on there. So that's no longer the problem. Now it's just about like, how do we make the plastic last longer, like the rails last longer? And then the other thing, how do we make them so they just don't break at all? There we go. Freshly gripped. Now I'll leave a link also down below. I should have said that, to where you can get one of these custom boards if you're looking to get one. Maybe you have, you know, maybe you want to support the local board builder instead of the mass production factory. I mean, going back to the point that we were really talking about as far as like supporting skaters in the skate industry, I think that would be like probably the most core way, I guess you would do that, is supporting people out of their garage, making boards out of their garage versus the mass market. But then again, it's not like, man, this board company, I don't think they can afford to pay skaters because they're just not that big of a company. So again, it's always just about what it is that you want too. Like maybe to you, the product is more important than like supporting a company that's like paying your favorite skater. Maybe if they can get to the point where like a lot of people are buying the boards, maybe they will pay their skaters. Now this will be interesting. Setting up a board without rails is kind of crazy because it goes so much faster. I will say about rails, it is annoying sometimes setting up your board but it does make your board last a lot longer. Like 51 days for this board, that's a pretty long time. Now, given I did set this board up right after my injury, I wasn't skating like as hard and as much, but 51 days is a pretty long time. I mean, I've been abusing this thing, and I'll show you what the razor tail looks like. It's actually held up so good in my opinion. I honestly probably could keep skating it. One thing I could have done to preserve it even more is I could have put the rails further in the middle of the board. Me and Spencer have this debate all the time, like putting your rails in more, you get more rail contact, which is a good and bad thing depending if like you want that, you like that. I like a little bit of board contact because I feel like I can control the slide better when if I don't have the board contact. Now my hardware is like falling all over my grass. It's gonna be hard to find. After 51 days, I mean, the razor tail is just starting to begin. I learned crooked grinds on this board too recently. And yeah, you got all the crooked grind marks. I mean, when you look at the stress cracks, I think that's a good way to see like the integrity of a board. Normally, if there was like a lot of stress cracks that are coming from your trucks, it's pretty clear that the board is just like not good anymore. Like it's just broken. And actually, to my surprise, there's like 0 stress cracks from under these trucks, which is really surprising. Typically, I do have a lot of them because I skate transitions, so the board's getting like torqued and tweaked quite a lot. So yeah, that's goes to show like how long these puller boards really do last, and generator wood in general. Like this for 51 days, I would say this is pretty damn good. I really did abuse this board, and I think it's worth the money, honestly. Like if you're gonna pay $75, why not get a board with cool art on it? Will Wells checks all the boxes. Me personally, I think it's a great choice. So now that thing's out of the arsenal, time to set up this freshie. It should be interesting. Like something about just pure wood feels so much different. And what I mean pure wood is like when I touch this, it's like, I don't know, it just feels like more like a piece of wood. When I touch like something like this, I almost feel like it's like a vinyl or something because of that heat transfer. I'm sure that's like the main reason why. But I don't know if that's a good and bad thing. The one thing I will say about like wood boards that I've noticed, at least with me personally, when they don't have a, whether it be, I don't know, a heat transfer or paint or like just like that one extra layer, it does seem like they get soggy faster from, and this is gonna sound crazy, but from your sweaty hands. Like I'm grabbing my board so much, like throwing down, grabbing, throwing down, grabbing. Like there's been sometimes when I filled the board and I'm like, wow, I swear like the board is just getting soggy because of how sweaty my hands are. Now I particularly have like really sweaty hands though. To be fair, I don't know what it is. Like not even when I'm nervous, like I'll just be doing anything. I'll be reading a book, I don't know, drinking water, and I'll have sweaty hands, like just anything. So I don't know if that will happen with this board. I guess we'll see in the future, like if it gets soggy based off my body sweat. It's pretty ridiculous if so. Maybe I have a perspiration, maybe I have a sweat problem. I don't know. This is the worst way to put on my hardware. Like I don't know why I just stuck it underneath me versus like putting it in a pile somewhere. You'd think by now, setting up boards my entire life, I would have mastered this, but I have not. So overall, I think the width is really important. I think wheelbase is really important. I think the length in the nose and the tail and the shape is important, but that can vary. I think ultimately that can vary for me a little bit, like the actual shape. I don't like a really tall, big nose. I tried them, I like them, I tried them. There's things I do like about them, things I don't like about them, but I found there's things that I don't like more than the things that I do. And what I mean by that is like FA boards or hockey boards, the boards with those big noses. I think Creature has big noses too. Yeah, I like it big, but not super steep. I think when you have it super steep, it just, you know, again, it's funny because I go against what a lot of traditional transition skaters like. Typically, they like big wheelbase and big nose for grabbing and going, you know, more stable, but all those things don't work in my favor. Maybe it's also because I don't really skate like huge transition. I do skate kind of maybe smaller transition than the people that I'm referring to, like vert skaters. Yeah, one more truck, and wheels are still doing really good. Obviously I set this up with the last board, 51 days. My wheels will last me a really long time. I'll skate them until they get coned out or until I feel like they're going slow. The one thing I did notice though recently is that my bone Swiss, my first pair of like nice expensive bearings, they're starting to squeak quite a lot. So I think I'm gonna have to clean those bad boys. I'm not sure if I should use the bearing lube because sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. I do have this other speed cream stuff. So yeah, I gotta do some bearing maintenance soon. I do have some more split fires coming soon. I'm excited up. I actually have some 101 A's coming because I've been riding these 99s and someone said recently you should try the 101s because I ride such hard concrete and because it is hot here too. It does make a difference, just like how the wheels react to your weather. So I will be making a video about the split fire, kind of the difference in the hardness, that 101 versus 99. We'll see. I think these are the standard 99s that a lot of people do skate. So yeah, 99D. I want to get the 101s. That'll be in the next video. Board's all set up. I'm excited. Custom board. Look at that. That's nice. I wish I did have the rails for it, but I'm going to go break this bad boy and let me know any other questions I didn't cover in this video about skateboards, about the deck and all that stuff. I mean, I didn't go into trucks because this video would get too long and crazy. And yeah, now I'm going to go skate somewhere. Love you all. Hit that like button. I appreciate it. Subscribe. See you in the next one. MASH.